Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful session on food partnerships. And we have a great lineup of speakers. We have three presentations. So I'd request the speakers to, it's a great division of time. So if all of you, if we could take 15 minutes each, and we can have overall 15 minutes for discussions and questions from the participants. And also I'd like all of you to just quickly introduce yourself. Take 2 minutes to introduce yourself before you start speaking, rather than I getting into introducing you. So please, over to you, Christine.
Okay. My presentation's right on 15 minutes. I recorded it last night, but we're in lockdown, so I've only got one bar of reception, so that's why I recorded it. But I can answer the chats. So I used to be at UQ. Gomathy and I are old colleagues, and I'm now an adjunct associate professor at Sunshine Coast Uni, and I'm also a senior researcher at Monash Uni, and a consultant. So I just did little bits and pieces here and there, anything from mainly in multi-stakeholder and learning methodologies, but anything in food security, poverty alleviation, health, education, so across a whole range of sectors. And I'll start. This research had two main aims. The first one was to understand how government and non-government Hi, and welcome everyone today to my presentation. And
hi, Christine, we can't see your screen. Yeah.
Hi, and welcome everyone today to my presentation, and it's on private-public producer partnerships for extension in Pacific Organics, adapting for a sustainable future. And this is a small research activity, an SRA funded by the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. And we finished up on this SRA just earlier in the year. I'd also like to acknowledge my other colleagues on this presentation, Mr. Stephen Hazelman, Professor Sarah Wheeler, Mr. Peter Coe, Mr. Jim Pearce, and Professor Jennifer Carter. And of course, there were a lot of other people involved in the project as well. This research had two main aims. The first one was to understand how government and non-government actors could work together to improve extension services and enhance organic production. And the second aim was to devise policy mechanisms for supporting partnership-based extension across organic supply chains in Vanuatu and Fiji. We had three main research phases in the project. The first was a policy review. So we looked at international and Pacific Island literature and policies to identify actions for extension partnerships. Then we did a series of case studies on multi-stakeholder perspectives on successful partnerships. And we looked at ginger, turmeric, coconut, coffee and cassava value chains in Fiji and Vanuatu. And the third phase was participatory policy forums where we shared the case study findings and experiences and gained additional multi-stakeholder input to improve collaboration and growth in the organic sector and also identify opportunities for policy change and support. And I guess the question that we asked in those forums was, how can we integrate our new knowledge of successful partnerships into policy? We referred to it as public-private producer partnerships because it highlights the role that producer organisations can play in PPPs for value chain and agricultural innovation. So roles like coordination, co-financing, and also political power. And with limited government resources and expertise, there's a big need to bring together business, government, and community to create alternative mechanisms for improving productivity and driving growth in agriculture and food sectors. Just to give you an idea of the sort of data we collected along the way, particularly in our case studies, I've just picked a few slides out of some of our case study reporting to give you an idea, but we looked at industry metrics. We looked at recent developments, so we weren't just looking in journal articles, but we were looking at newspapers of anything we could find around partnerships. We also constructed seasonal calendars in communities, and while we were doing that, we were looking at the partnerships that occurred at different times in the season. We were also looking right across the value chain and the different partnerships that exist at different parts along the chain. We also were collecting market price, looking at the changes across then, and different actors and partnerships that occurred and how they changed at time. And here's an interesting one. This is partnerships, an example of organic coconuts. And we were using an old colleague of mine, Marlo Rankin's work that she did looking at 4 different types of partnerships based on purpose. So we used those to help us tease out different types of partnerships that we could see in Fiji and Vanuatu. And we identified those, who the partners were for those different types of partnerships, where in the value chain that occurred, and what was the purpose. So I want to go through what we found out about partnerships in our research. But before I do that, I'm going to stop for 30 seconds and have people in the chat just quickly write down one observation that they've had in the past about partnerships. Okay, I'll keep going. Just to start with, I'll go through each of the key findings, and there's some observations underneath, and I've left them there because when you look at the slides later, you can read them in more detail. I might mention a couple of them, but I will skip over the observations. So the first key finding, the partnerships required along a value chain are not fixed. They're not a fixed model, but an evolving process to be managed within a specific context. That is, they change over time with the maturity of the value chain. So one of our observations is, PoetCom played a key role in that initial connection of stakeholders along the value chain, and then played a key role in coordinating the establishment of the chain with those stakeholders. But then as the value chains became more mature and successful, the stakeholders along the value chain could or became more profitable, and they could bring in relationships with private providers then to address specific issues as they arose. So the importance of partnerships remained high, but who the partnership was with had changed. Secondly, partnerships exist between the public and private sector. However, not all information and training needs are being met, and services need to be expanded. And number 3, value chain conflicts exist between meeting business objectives, organic objectives, and social justice, community development objectives. I think you would all have seen examples of this. We had an observation where there was concern expressed for the impacts on local families supplying produce that have either replaced their own family food gardens with the commodity they're supplying as the demand for that commodity increases, resulting in lower family nutrition and local families replacing their traditional diets with Western high sugar and high carbohydrate diets, which is quite a concern in the Pacific at the moment. And I think it emphasises what Veronica mentioned in the ACR presentation yesterday about the importance of systems approaches. And we really need to be looking at the impact of on vulnerable groups across that whole value chain. 4, whole of value chain understanding varies greatly with stakeholders, with many stakeholders understanding their own component in the value chain, but not the specifics of or the issues within other components. Number 5, third-party certification requires more widespread training of recording skills, including a long-term approach where these skills can start as early as education in schools. PGS certification requires additional training in the coordination of PGS and greater awareness of the time required to undertake PGS. So different needs there. And then we also need a fluid process between PGS and third-party certification. That needs to be identified and developed, providing this sort of easy transition mechanism to move between the two. Number 7, public-private partnerships are needed to ensure wider value chain impacts are being addressed, better market chain access, and also help in situations along the value chain where there are higher levels of risk. And I'll go into a little bit more information about risk. Number 8, although farmers and other stakeholders along the value chain have criteria that they aim to meet for certification requirements, farmers would benefit from an overall organic management plan. Number 9, organic farmers predominantly aim to meet the organic standards in terms of no chemical use, but other organic farming criteria are not always met or considered. And number 10, organic farming and organic food markets are primarily chosen for market access, health and sustainability reasons and not to gain a premium. And this is a surprise for us. I think when we started the project, we assumed the premium would be a big driver, but in actual fact, the more people we spoke to, the main drivers were market access, health and sustainability. Organic farming, organic food markets may help address climate change impacts and build resilience of whole of value chain from farming families to consumers. And number 12, organic farming and organic food markets are required to help address the inclusion of women and young people across the entire value chain, and not just at the farming end of the value chain, assessing their participation in decision making from practice through to policy, and whether value chain initiatives are doing to, doing for, doing with. And we saw that quite a lot when we were looking at who was involved where along the value chain in terms of partnerships, that women and young people and also people with disabilities were often at the practice and the hands-on farming end, but not at other key parts along the value chain. Okay, so I just want to go through what we found out on our project around the qualities of successful partnerships. But before I do that, I'd like you to jump in the chat again and each of you write down one quality that you know, a quality of a successful partnership. Great. I'll keep going. So our qualities of successful partnerships that we found. The first one is a shared vision or mission and purpose and shared ownership of objectives and methods and direction. So that's not rocket science. I think most people would know that. A good understanding of each partner's skills, knowledge and expertise to inform the development of clear roles and responsibilities. Number 3, good consultation and participatory processes with all stakeholders and end users during planning and implementation and evaluation. Number 4, good governance mechanisms. For example, institutional and regulatory frameworks, transparent decision-making and financial processes. Number 5, capacity building of stakeholders by public partners to ensure inclusive and collective action and equitable partnerships. And number 6, negotiation and development of partnership agreements, which outline each partner's incentives, benefits and contributions. And number 7, risk management mechanisms, including risk sharing and allocation. So depending on who is best to manage the risk at what time and where in the value chain it is, with risk distribution at different times. And this was quite clear to us when we did our case studies. And number 8, quality and improvement processes built into partnerships based on good monitoring and evaluation processes. So just to go in a little bit more detail about that risk management. So we saw examples where commercial risks were reduced for the private sector by providing fiscal incentives to reduce transaction costs. We saw risk also reduced by free public and private extension services, as well as the use of government facilities. Production risks often shared by a farm family and farmer organisations or by a farmer and public partner, and market risk often carried by a private partner. And risks are also distributed among partners differently at different stages, depending on which partner is able to manage the risk best during that stage. And last but not least, just some ideas around barriers and constraints. So the first one, to successful partnerships. So the first one, capacity building of different stakeholders. So entrepreneurial skills in service providers, farmers, monitoring and evaluation frameworks in governments. We could see that as a clear barrier and constraint. Time required for partnerships. So partnerships do take time and commitment by all stakeholders and can seem quicker to do things independently. Third barrier, traditional roles and responsibilities. So, partnerships are all about flexibility of roles and responsibilities and new ways of working to address complexity and uncertainty. And 4, including the poorest of the poor. So public services provide public goods and being able to see, evaluate systemic impacts. And that will be, I think, a big focus. So this is an SRA, but we're hoping that this will move into a larger project. And I think that sort of systems orientated understanding is a real need from what we saw in our case studies. And number 5, lack of understanding of each other's interests and needs. Lack of experience in managing and maintaining complex partnerships. And that's it from me. So I think that's my time up, and I'll pass it on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. That was great. If we have a couple of quick questions, we can probably take it, or so you can put it on the chat or on the Q&A. If not, we can just move on to our next speaker, and we can take the discussion towards the end of the session.
Yeah, I'm happy to save it for the discussion. I couldn't actually see the chat or anything when I went going, so I'll have a read through that now and have a look.
Yeah, they have, while you were speaking on the 2 junctions, when you ask them to put, people have put some points, so you can read them.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So, Mary?
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone here. We really thank you for joining us as we share with you our experiencing in harnessing the power of partnerships in this challenging, turbulent, extraordinary, and unprecedented of times. So my name is Mariecar Fernando. Later on, I will Good morning again, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening as we share with you the social impact results of addressing food insecurity through public and private partnerships. My name is Mariecar Fernando, and later I will be joined by Rebete. We are both from Ayala Foundation based in Manila, Philippines, and we will be sharing with you the power of harnessing the importance of partnerships both in the public and private sectors in this project. But before we begin, let me give you first a quick overview of what Ayala Foundation is. We are the social development arm of the Ayala Group of Companies. It's one of the biggest and oldest business conglomerates in the Philippines. Our key programs are in education, sustainable livelihood, and instilling love of country through arts and culture and youth leadership initiatives. We implement our programs, first of all, by seeking to understand what the community realities are and ensuring that we engage the people, all of our stakeholders in the change process. We really cannot overemphasize the importance of understanding this engagement of stakeholders as we build and nurture these partnerships with both the public and private sectors, the civil society organizations, and the business groups. And we do this also to ensure that we achieve impact, scale, and sustainability for all the stakeholders involved. So what you are looking at right now is an illustration of how, together with our communities and our stakeholders, we address the COVID-19 pandemic realities at the beginning of the lockdown last year. So first, we tried to ensure that the health and safety of everyone is ensured and that we placed health and well-being at the center of our recovery programs. After that, we tried to make sure that all our stakeholders began a new way of delivering or implementing the methods because face-to-face is not possible or was no longer an option. Then we moved to doing online delivery methods. As we all got comfortable and relating and nurturing our stakeholders online, we then continued our inclusive development work through this different delivery method. And finally, we also began to recover the income lost, especially for our sustainable livelihood initiatives whose operations had to be suspended because of the quarantine and lockdowns. I guess for all of us, it was kind of hard to imagine anyone missing 2021, it was over. But I guess now that we're in 2021, we also couldn't wait for it to be end. And as we all know, the global public health response to control the spread of COVID-19 has involved both national lockdowns, both in the national level and international travels or businesses, resulting in severe impacts on social and economic access to food and healthcare systems. So with little or no savings at all or no source of income, many of the most vulnerable families have been unable to provide nutritious food for their own families and have relied in aid, whether in cash, in grocery vouchers, or relief food packs delivered to them by various partners. However, funds for the social amelioration programs are also running dry. And as a result, based on the study conducted by Social Weather Stations last year, about 4 million families or approximately 21 Filipino individuals continued to experience involuntary hunger by the end of 2020. And so, with some of our partner farmer communities, a program to send relief goods of fresh produce direct to the most vulnerable families was crafted. This served families with most need by filling the relief packs with fresh and healthy produce bought from small farmer producers in the local area instead of sourcing them from big wholesalers in the market. The program was called Be a Bayani, Bayani, which encourages individuals to be a bayani. It's a Filipino word for a hero, so be a hero by buying the farmer's harvest or their ani and having them delivered to most vulnerable communities in areas that are in need of this food relief. The program was seen to alleviate hunger experienced by the families who received the healthy relief packs and income loss experienced by the farmers who harvested the produce. It was all about building on the strengths of communities, as Christine also mentioned earlier, the importance of building on the strengths of the communities who are in need to also help the sectors in the communities who are also in need. The project Be a Bayani by Ani is a multi-stakeholder partnership amongst Ayala Foundation's partner communities in 7 areas in the Philippines. But even before the pandemic, Ayala Foundation has also been following the partnership model in its operations. And when we look at partnerships, it is important to look at what partners can offer and not on what they lack. All stakeholders have active roles in developing productive partnerships with coordinated efforts requiring collaboration, both in resource giving and in service provision. Addressing both contributions and areas of concerns and priorities is building on effective partnerships. Needless to say, the pandemic's effects have underscored the necessity for coordination across sectors and with communities. So in here, these are the 3 key stakeholders in our project Be a Bayani program. The household that are in need of the relief through food packs, the suppliers in the local communities, farmers, fisher folks, and local small entrepreneurs, and the community partners that helped us implement the program, whether through provision of funding or through provision of volunteer services by delivering these food packs to the most vulnerable communities. And what we did, as mentioned earlier by Christine, it's very important as a quality of a good partnership to have quality and improved mechanisms for measuring the outcomes and impact. So what we did at Ayala Foundation was to use the social return on investment as our framework to assess the impact of Project Bayani. This is really looking at what matters to the stakeholders, both the household, the local suppliers, and the community partners, as it measures the changes in the people's lives, looks at the depth and width of these changes for each of the stakeholders, and by putting a value so that we know the worth of the social goods or impact produced by our projects. We are following the framework designed by Social Value International using the SROI or Social Return on Investment as we measure the social impact of our various projects and activities. So I'll be turning you over now to Jessie as she shares with us the result of the social impact of addressing food insecurity through PPP using Project Bayani. Thank you and see you later.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jesusa Rebete from Ayala Foundation. I lead the program governance team and specifically tasked to measure social return on investment. I am a level 1 accredited SROI practitioner granted by the Social Value International. And I, just like Christine, I also teach in a university in the graduate school teaching research methodologies and thesis writing. As part of Ayala Foundation's response to COVID-19 pandemic, and as Mariecar earlier discussed, Ayala Foundation with its partner organizations launched by Ani for 10,000 families across the country. And I'll be sharing with you its social return on investment or SROI. The Philippines, as you may know, it is in quarantine for almost for more than a year now almost 2 years, and we are in quarantine with varying levels of mobility when the study was conducted last year. In our study, we analyzed the level of effect of quarantine to livelihood of our household partners and the impact of Bayani as a response. We found out that 88% of respondents either lost their job or livelihood. Families experience a 51% loss in income. Because of this, if you look at the graph on the right, there are sectors that slide down from above poverty line to below poverty line. Aside from that, fisher folks, micro entrepreneurs, and those without regular income were already living below the poverty line, but they slide further below food poverty during quarantine. Farmers live at subsistence level before and during quarantine. As also Mariecar discussed a while ago, Bayani is a program that hopes to help households during quarantine. In the impact assessment, it has four major outcomes for the households. The first one is improved emotional state as indicated by reduced anxiety on where to get the next meal for the next 5 days, and improved physical well-being as indicated by improvement in the quality of food. The third is improved social inclusion as indicated by a feeling of being cared for and supported by the community. And the fourth one is increased hope to recover. This is a good one, indicated by a positive feeling that they can get out of this situation as one with the help of the community. These are what people say about the outcomes. They said that it lessens their anxiety. They can eat good food again. They feel love and concern, and they get high hopes to recover. Another stakeholder is the suppliers. The suppliers are the community associations, cooperatives, which are also our partners, and small local business and entrepreneurs. Our suppliers engage volunteers. Community associations and cooperatives engage the highest number of volunteers and generated the highest number of volunteer hours. Next, please. Next slide. We have two major outcomes for suppliers. The first one is more resilient in time of COVID-19 pandemic as indicated by alternative buyer and income generated totaling to 4.8 million worth of products. And the second one is improved social inclusion as indicated by being happy to help and contribute to society, and the total number of relief packs that they distributed in their communities. Our community suppliers were able to restart because of Bayani, and this is one positive impact of the design of Bayani itself, where we engage farmers, the local farmers and small entrepreneurs in this activity. And it also strengthened their family bond. Most of their families, the family members volunteered in the packing and distribution. Ayala Foundation also partnered with churches, small businesses, community groups, and local government units to identify family partners, set up local implementation system, including purchasing of supplies, packing, distribution, and also in the assessment. Our outcome statements were rated positively by respondents between an average of 3.6 to 3.9 in a scale of 1 to 4. And in here, very interestingly, community partners registered a negative outcome of increased anxiety to get COVID-19 virus in volunteering with an average of 3.1 rating. There are four major outcomes for community partners. The first one is increased organizational capacity as indicated by widened network and new ways of service delivery, which is a good practice during quarantine. And the second one is sustained organizational presence during pandemic, as indicated by respondents' rating, the number of food packs distributed, and the total number of volunteer hours generated. The third one is increased social inclusion as indicated by satisfaction for being able to help and a sense of community. And the last one is the negative impact of anxiety to get COVID-19 virus during the project. These are what people say, our partners say on the outcomes. They said that their constituents are happy. It's a form of reassurance for the family that some organizations are there to be with them during the quarantine, and the distribution of packs are timely and successful. What you're looking here is a summary of values of identified outcomes for Bayani's beneficiaries. As you can see, SROI is stakeholder specific. So our stakeholders are the household, suppliers, community partners. And with the total value of investment at 168,000 AUD, it produced 1 million Australian dollar worth of social goods, and generated a social return on of investment of 1:6. This means that for every dollar of investment for this kind of project, a $6 worth of benefits comes back to the stakeholders in terms of social outcomes, or the outcomes that I discussed earlier. We have a number of recommendations, but the major one is to have further engagement for those who were heavily hit by pandemic. They are the farmers, fisher folks, small entrepreneurs, and those without regular income. Because of the high impact of this project,
Jesusa,
the
I'm sorry
project,
to interrupt. Please, can we wrap up soon?
okay, this is my last slide.
Yeah,
Because of
thank
its high impact, the project was replicated by other private partners. Ayala Malls Department of Agriculture and the Restaurant Owners Association of the Philippines held a sustainable farmers fair in different Ayala malls in Metro Manila for 7 days. And another private group provided sustained food assistance for 10,000 individuals in 3 areas in Metro Manila. And this project also has phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 2 is providing sustainable household level farming, and phase 3 is sustainable livelihood for this group. Thank you very much. I'd like to end by quoting the Philippine Secretary of Department of Agriculture. An assured market and decent income will encourage our farmer producers to continue to produce food with the strong support of the private sector. The Department of Agriculture is confident that it can achieve its goal of a bountiful harvest, increased income, and a food-secure Philippines with prosperous farmers and fisher folks. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mariecar and Jesusa. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank
And
you.
very interesting set of indicators to map the social impacts.
Yeah, thank you.
We have some, if you have any questions, you can please put on the chat and the Q&A, and we can please move to the next speaker, Sajida. Would you like to share your screen? And please, participants, you can keep putting your questions and comments on the chat or the Q&A.
So, is my screen is visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. First of all, I am thankful to the conference organizers. I'm Dr. Sajida Taj. I am working in Pakistan Agriculture Research Councils and heading the Rural Development and Social Change Program in Social Sciences Research Institute. And currently we are doing 2 Australia-Pakistan collaborative projects, one for the irrigation water management, and the other one is the vegetable value chains, and which the presentation of this today's presentation is based on the that is vegetable value chain project. First of all, I'm thankful to the conference organizers for providing us an opportunity to share our research work on this prestigious forum. And it's a great honor and pleasure for me to present our research work of strengthening vegetable value chains project in Pakistan. I am grateful to ACAR and acknowledge their contribution towards gender inclusion in the agricultural value chains project in Pakistan. The contribution of Australian collaborators, especially Dr. Gomathy Palaniappan from University of Queensland, Dr. Timson, Professor Ray Collins, and Dr. Tony are also highly admirable. As their continuous leadership, support, guidance, and collaboration and partnership help us to meaningfully and effectively plan, execute, and monitor the project in Pakistan. I'm also thankful to our local team, especially Dr. Rehan and Nargis, for support and implementing the project. Once again, a great thanks to all. The topic of our today's presentation is Partnership and Collaborations for Change, a case study of women tomato nursery farmers in district Muzaffargarh, Punjab, a very underdeveloped districts, one of the underdeveloped districts in southern Punjab of Pakistan. The presentation will follow the format like this: why gender matters in vegetable value chains, small farming farm families, and role of women in agriculture from the small farming farm families, social strengthening vegetable value chain project in Pakistan, collaboration and partnership and participatory action research, and process of participatory action research, research objectives, site and data, and then followed by the findings and discussions and lessons learned. So first of all, it's important to understand why gender matters in the vegetable value chains and how effective collaborations and targeted women inclusion could benefit the marginal groups of the community. As despite the continuous efforts of international and national research and development organizations to strengthen connections between agricultural research and development and farming communities as a way to improve rural livelihood, still little is known about how new collaborations can effectively alter service provision to men and women differently. As Pakistan is an agricultural country, and out of Pakistan's 207 million population, or about 63% of the population lives in rural area, where the multidimensional poverty is much higher than the urban centers. And vast majority of the population depend on agriculture for their livelihood, directly or indirectly. Either they're engaged in farming or as farm laborers and service providers. Women are 50% of the population and contribute 43% of the women are involved in agricultural labor, with significant contribution in almost all the crops, vegetables, and livestock activities. Although the role of women varies regionally across the country, however, women are mostly involved in all the vegetable production, livestock farming, and crop production. Majority of the rural women in Pakistan from small farmer families work on their own farms as unpaid family farm labor or low paid farm labor with more than 20 to 30% of the wage gap. Most of the most of the vegetable production, as most of the small farmers are involved in vegetable production, as the vegetable production offers better opportunities and quick returns, especially to women smallholder farmers. Smallholder farming households are a backbone of Pakistan's farming system because they are about 80% and who own less than 12.5 hectares or less than 12.5 acres or less than 5 hectares of land. Out of 85%, more than half of the smallholders own only less than 2 hectares of land and belongs to marginal landholders. Majority of the smallholders and marginal landholders grow vegetables, as I mentioned earlier, that it provides better opportunities and quick returns to the farmers, especially women. Vegetable and improve the economic well-being and nutrition status of the household. Majority of the women work along with their family men to on family farms as well as on other farms as a farm labor. But majority of the women lack land ownership and recognition of their work, and they have very meager role in decision making, leading to marginalization of women in accessing information, skills, and other productive resources to improve their livelihood, which is indicated through the gender gap index that Pakistan ranks very low in out of 156 countries. We are in, unfortunately, on 153rd position. The gender gap index is measured on 4 major indicators: education, health, economic opportunity, and leadership. So Pakistan ranks, unfortunately, very low on that. Keeping in view the marginal position of the, of women, all of the Australia-Pakistan collaborative projects focuses on women and marginal groups inclusion, especially the Strengthening Vegetable Value Chains project that is funded by ACIR. The project started in 2018 and executed through University of Queensland, CAB International, Pakistan Agricultural Research Council, and other local partners in research. The major aim of the project is to identify opportunities for increasing community engagement and developing rural entrepreneurship, especially for women and youth. The project uses the participatory action research and carried out collaborative value chain development activities focusing small farming households and marginal groups. The project aims to explore these 3 cross-cutting questions. To what extent women's contribution to horticultural value chains is recognized? What are the gender-related rights and denials that that limit their participation, and how can be they addressed to improve community livelihood? What are the pro-poor vegetable value chain opportunities that will improve the entrepreneurship and sustainable enterprises of target communities, particularly for the benefit of women and youth in Pakistan? And what are the capacity building activities that can enable scale out of the selected value chain improvement in smallholder-led tomato, chilies, potato, and onion value chains in Pakistan? The objective of this research is to improve the collaboration amongst the rural smallholder farm families, to enhance participation of women, to work together and benefit from the tomato nursery production in district Muzaffargarh. District Muzaffargarh is one of the districts in southern Punjab. It's in development scale, it ranks 35 out of 36 districts. It's a underdeveloped district, so one of the underdeveloped districts in Punjab. The district is third. It contributes in it's a third largest producer of tomato in the country. This paper is based on the data collected from district Muzaffargarh. The project has selected 2 villages from this district initially, and 60 households from each village were registered, keeping in view the farmer and household selection criteria that were developed by the multidisciplinary team of the project. And from 60 households, 1 key male farmer and 1 key female farmer, mostly the spouse, were selected for data collection. And a comprehensive baseline survey was conducted in the area using the participatory action research. The participatory action research, according to Levin, action learning is a process that involves taking actions and reflecting on that actions to gain knowledge. People people who experience the problem are best in best position to conduct research on the problem, and also the participants can establish equal partnerships with researchers that can be used to adapt community to address the community problems. PAR-related activities helped empower members of powerless groups. Participation in the PAR process is a critical component of community interventions. The PAR cycle for this project started with the information gathering through the baseline survey, asset mapping, gender workload mapping, and then went to the planning, training need assessments through focus group discussions, and then planning of action, making an action plan for a collaborative action plan, and then reflecting on that plan, how it went and why it didn't work and how we can improve that. So this has influenced at 4 levels: individual level, as women were like very confident, and household level, their households also gained some trust and confidence on them. At village level, that women can also do something, and inter-village level, that other villages are also inspiring that women can contribute positively in the tomato value chain. Now I will request Dr. Gomathy to present the remaining part of the presentation. Over to you, Gomathy.
Thank you, Dr. Sajida. I'm Gomathy Palaniappan, and I work as a senior research fellow and lecturer at the University of Queensland. I'm the social leader for the project on strengthening vegetable value chains in Pakistan, and happy to co-present with Sajida. Thank you. Let's move to the next slide. Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay, so to stabilize the collaboration process as a research for development project, we had both the quantitative and qualitative analysis to understand the community characteristics that Sajida was presenting before. So the components which were included was both the household survey and the focus group discussions. A livelihood analysis approach was followed, which included all the 5 capitals. So the questions were based on all the 5 capitals to understand what the male member of the family and the female member of the family is able to achieve. I got it, Arindita. We have 2 more minutes. So I'll focus on this slide a bit more, and then we move on to the next one. So the other important methods that were used in order to understand is using social network analysis in order to build up on the collaboration. So we understood how the male member of the family were able to build relationship and network, and how the female member of the family. The gender gap, in order to understand, which was extremely variant, if you say, the male members had very good network in terms of within the village and beyond the village, and especially with market and accessing of inputs and everything. And of course, mobility being one of the bigger gender norm within the village, the women's access was just confined within the family members, and also was possibly facilitated within the village to the very higher level. Other than health-related activities, there was no other opportunity for women to have any network or activity beyond the village and the community. So moving on to the next point. Slide, Sajida, thanks. So I'd like to highlight on some of the gender gap which we identified. So of course, low literacy. So there was very, very minimum access to education for the women, and the other things, of course, access to the knowledge and extension related activities. The women did feel that they needed support in terms of improving the nursery production, because women engaged more in the nursery activities, and mostly due to mobility, they used to grow the nursery seedlings very closer to the home and within the resources that's provided to them. So they wouldn't know what seed varieties being given to them, which the male member of the family purchases when he goes out of the village to the market, and the women. So it's kind of disengaged. There's no discussions in terms of how to improve the tomato production as a family, although the role of a seedling is quite important when they transplant it in the minefield. The vigor of the seedling actually improves the yield. And also one of the other social issue and cultural issue that was faced by the women is early marriages. So when me and Sajida were in the field, we did understand that we were in the first trip, and we were talking to the community members. We met very young girls who were very actively engaged in the activities with us, around 12 to 13 years old. And the next visit, they were already married. So that issue, that cultural issue of very early marriage and early domestic responsibilities to the children, or girl children, is a major issue. Arundita, how many more minutes do we have?
Gomathy, we have exceeded the time, so it would be great if we could just
wrap it up.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, let's move on. So these pictures are self-explanatory, where you can see the roles of the women, very crucial in terms of seedling and transplantation, and then again in weeding, where the women's roles are quite higher, and a very important role again comes back to the shoulders of the women when it comes to grading of the tomatoes, which is then sent to the markets. Next slide, please, Sajida. So these are the highlights of how participatory action research and action learning activities, which what I would like to emphasize here is being a multidisciplinary team, to emphasize the action and reflective exercise was the key for the success of the interventions. And we made, as a team, we had to make that happen, which was the biggest challenge that we experienced. The next one, thank you. So using the participatory method, we did understand the training needs analysis, which was mentioned earlier. And of course, the women realized and definitely mentioned that nursery raising is one of their most important priority need, which was prioritized by the women participants. Next slide, thanks. This is a picture of the gender constraints that was discussed earlier. And what was ranked first was access to knowledge. So as you understand, there's a public sector which delivers the extension, which is the knowledge of farm practices, and it's usually delivered by the male. And due to the strict gender norm, the males cannot talk to the females. So there's not much information that's shared with the women in the families. Next one, please. So the capacity building on nursery raising was conducted, and this opportunity was, of course, through the engagement, which Sajida presented earlier in one of the slides, through a participatory action research approach, the individual member of the family. So when we talk about engaging women, we used a whole family approach. So it's not just talking to the women to say, come on to the training activities. That's something that you requested, but it's a whole family talking to the male, the female, the youth, the children, so that it's understood by the whole family, so that that activity is quite important. So the support is given to the females of the family in order to attend those trainings. And talking to the Department of Extension, we were also able to negotiate to identify some of the female extension officers who were also willing to come and talk to the female participants, and which we thought that also allowed the female to be comfortable in order to discuss with the female extension officers and the female researchers in order to improve their techniques. So we would like to conclude here to say that people who experience the problem are in the best position to conduct the research on this issue. So of course, the women categorized and prioritized the issue is to develop better seedlings, and they wanted support and technical expertise on that. And the women understood the problem of the seedlings, and they trialed the nursery practices to improve the quality of the seedlings. And this new knowledge that was gained by the women by means of this collaborative effort allowed women and put them in a better position within the families and the communities, as many of the other families are now approaching and discussing with these families in order to improve their tomato production. So these are the lessons learned. Gender inclusive approach increases women to access the information, skills, and productive assets. Getting access to that is very important, and overcoming the cultural barrier of participation was possible through these interventions. Collaboration within the group, outside the group, this also allowed improve women's understanding in order to improve the skills of the nursery raising. The lack of female staff for training rural women was one of the barriers, which was also overcome by means of negotiating and partnership with the Department of Extension. Thank you. So these are the, thanks, Sajida.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sajida and Gomathy. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. We don't have much time for questions, but we can take a couple of them. Christine, we have a question for you on the Q&A from Veronica. What's the most important role of researchers in facilitating public-private partnerships? Would you like to take that?
Oh, good. It's not letting me start the video. I think it has the host, it says the host has to do it. Is Adam still there? Or I'll just talk, it doesn't. Well, that's a great question. I did jot a few notes down, but my short answer is listening and co-learning. And the long answer, I wrote a couple of points just to think about for all the group here. As soon as we started getting more and more participatory research, the boundaries between research and extension have become blurry. So, we've got this sort of question about who should be supporting partnership and facilitating that process. Should it be the researcher? Should it be the extension agent? So you could also argue, with a researcher, with participatory research or action research or whatever, is it part of their competency and their capacity that they should know how to run participatory research and all its variants the same way as they know how to run on-farm research or even a lab research. I think one thing is that not to get confused with partnerships, that when you're talking about methodology, social scientists are scientists as well, and they don't necessarily, there's a real difference between social science and methodology, and sometimes when projects try and push those things together because they think, oh, the social scientists can do that, and they might have no background in process, one of those things often becomes poor. And the question of who's the researcher, is it the public, is it the private, is it the producer? Because they've all got knowledge to contribute. And when we talk about triple loop learning, everyone's the researcher, everyone's reflecting on the content, the context, and the process. And, and that's where the real capacity building actually occurs. And you might say, well, the farmer and the person who has the problem has the most context knowledge. A social scientist might have the most process knowledge, and a technical one might be the most content knowledge. But, in the end of the day, you've got a big group of people and it's about asking the questions, what are the skills they have, who needs to contribute in what way and how and why, and what capacity does the actual whole group of team need? That's my long answer. I don't know if I answered your question, Veronica.
Christine, there's another question for you about the power relationship during the facilitation process.
Yeah, that must be from Gomathy. And she'll know my answer to this. But again, I think, I could answer easily saying participatory methods, and that's generally what we use, and it's understanding in what sense do you then have working with family or working just with women. So I'd say participatory methods, and also the relationships you have. So in the Pacific, we've been working there a long time, so we actually have some very good relationships there. So some of those issues around power are a bit easier for us than if we were coming in for the first time.
Thank you, everyone. I think we need to finish now for the next session to start. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Thanks, Arun.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Arun.
I had a question for you, Gomathy.
Yeah,
Thanks,
post it on the
everyone.
chat.
Thanks, everyone. Thank
The
you for
session will,
attending.
the next session will be starting in a few minutes. Thanks for that. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Good to see you, Gomathy.
Good to see you.
Bye,
Great,
everyone.
Sajida. Thank you. Great.
Thanks, Gomathy. Have a